Hello and welcome, I'm Charlie Wild, and in today's video I'm going to share with you a few very key ways in which you can protect your energy in this time of powerful changes and shifts on planet Earth. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe, and if you'd like to support my work, you can join me on Patreon. The link will be below. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I've spoken about before the different sort of changes and agendas that are unfolding on planet Earth, and they've become quite obvious in the last couple of years. During this time, there is a separation that's happening between the people who are really understanding what's going on beyond the surface and are taking the necessary actions within and without to align with a state of well-being and freedom. And then there are those who are sort of being completely brainwashed into these agendas, and it's really important that we maintain a sense of clarity with what is going on. And the best way to do that is for us to be as clear-minded as possible. And I'm going to share with you a few things that you can do that are so key. Oftentimes in this process, we focus on the external thing, which I will discuss in a little bit. But right now, I want to focus on the internal part. It is key that we heal and really resolve our traumas, especially our childhood trauma. When we are in a traumatized state, we are easy to control and manipulate. And so many of us come from these traumatized environments. Trauma can come from abuse in the family, it can come from the way in which we were raised and the different systems that we have been part of, including the healthcare system and the education system. And now, more than ever, it is imperative that we really get access to the tools necessary to heal and become, first of all, aware of the traumas that are controlling our lives. Because no matter what we manifest, no matter what great things we bring about, unless we have worked on ourselves within, we have done this deeper soul work, then everything that we manifest, we will sabotage somehow. Because the trauma really disconfigures how our brain works, and it really wreaks havoc in our nervous system. In a traumatized state, we are easily controlled. And right now, the cabal wants more than ever to control us and convert us into a slave race. So many people are already living in this slave mentality. So it's very key when we heal and address these inner traumas to become aware of how they're controlling our lives, and in turn making us susceptible to different brainwashing tactics. There's a lot of information out there, and chances are if you're watching me right now, you probably are not watching CNN. So when a lot of people think of sources of information, they think of the grand mass media. But beyond the mass media, which is becoming so obvious to so many people that they are part of this cabal, there's also other smaller sources of information. And it's important to pay attention, because even in the so-called spiritual community, there's plenty of narcissists and people that want to gain power over others, and they share information that sounds good to the ego, but it's not really doing you any favors. So really pay attention to your sources of information. Take everything with a grain of salt, and remember, a fine-tuned intuition is the best place for information. What do I mean by this? When you really clear up your mind and you focus on what matters and you connect with your soul in a clear and deep way, you'll begin to really refine your intuition in such a way that you receive the necessary information in order to take the next steps in your life and continue or begin to live a life that is much more intentional and joyful and purposeful. This next point and this next thing I'm going to share with you is so important, but also something that is being attacked in a very covert way, and that is connect with your tribe. How is this being attacked? There's been many different studies that have shown how since the 80s, more and more people are living alone. And while living alone can be comforting, especially when we are doing this inner work, it is very dangerous because in this alone state, in this separated state, we are easily controlled. And that is why the agendas that have been put into work are becoming so effective now, because they are splitting people further and further apart from one another. Of course, there is the World Wide Web and it's allowing us to connect, but yet so many people are still feeling a deep sense of loneliness. And it's important that you put in the effort necessary to find your tribe. At first, this might be a little bit difficult, and you might have to start in a place like the internet. As a nomad myself, the internet is definitely a very good place to connect with others, but I find that nothing, absolutely nothing matches the connection that we have in person. And this is so key, because as you notice with this thing that happened in the last couple of years that I will not mention, one of the biggest sort of things that we were forced, it wasn't even an option really for so many people in different parts of the world, they were forced to separate from other humans around them. And while on the surface it seemed like the thing to make that it made sense to do, there was actually a deeper purpose to it. And what that did was it really not just separated us from one another, but it brought our vibration down, because when we are connected to one another, there is a flourishing, all right, a deeper connection, a deeper exchange of energy that happens. And that exchange of energy was corroded away. It's very tempting when we are in a state of healing our trauma to separate from people around us, and that's okay, because sometimes you have to separate from your family and you have to get further away from them, but you realize that the inner work is key. And once you do that inner work, you can go out into the world and be connected with others that are on the same sort of, not just vibration, but that are seeing things in a clear-minded way. That is possible, and that is very key that we do at this time, because remember, when we are separated, we are more easily controlled. When we come together, we are way more powerful. The next point that I want to share with you, the next key thing that I want to share with you, is concerning your environment, your physical as well as internal environment, and that is minimizing the amount of things that you are surrounding yourself with. Embracing not just a minimalist lifestyle, because minimalism itself has its own traps, but what I call intuitive minimalism. This is a way to eliminate the excess of things, thoughts, habits that aren't serving you, that aren't bringing fruitfulness and joy into your space. It's really an internal shift before it becomes an external shift, but sometimes you can begin outwardly. As a nomad and as well as a new mother, it's becoming even more important to me to simplify my life more and more, because it is at the core of my spiritual practice is freedom and simplicity. And so every so often I look around me and I look within me and I notice what's working, what's not working, what can I let go of. And if it concerns things, at first it might be a bit difficult letting go of certain things in your life, but as you begin to ask yourself certain questions like, what can I live without? What do I really need? What really brings me joy? What can I let go of? As you begin to ask these questions, answers will come. And from there, you can take the actions necessary. When I left the US in 2019, I sold and I donated most of my things, and I sold a few things like my car and some furniture pieces. And it was very liberating to be able to fit most of what I owned in just 2 suitcases. And now that my daughter is born, we are sharing a suitcase. So I'm minimizing even more items from my personal life. However, this does not mean that you get rid of anything you want, that you want and need. This does not mean that you have to live within a certain number of things. This does not mean that you have to become so obsessed and preoccupied with this minimalist lifestyle, but it does mean beginning to detach yourself from a consumerist mindset, because consumerism is another tool that is used to control us. Thank you so much for listening. If there is anything in particular that caught your attention or something that you already been practicing, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Thank you and be blessed.